It's been yet another week since I came back on here with my fancy new recording equipment and all, and I've been champing at the bit to get these videos out to you all again. Well, except for Friday, which I've decided is when these anime videos are coming out. Better, I think, to end the week on a relatively high point than to bring yet more cringe into everyone's lives over the weekend. Also, when F&T is on, I just can't seem to concentrate on working on a video for that day. So hey out there people, I'm the Goblin King, and since it's Friday, I'm giving you all another anime video that I watched from over the week. This week I watched one whose English title is Police in a Pod. At first, I was confused about that title. Couldn't figure out how the hell that made sense. According to Google, Hakozume, which is the Japanese title in katakana, literally means police in a pod. I know that Hako by itself is box. No, it's not boxu. That's the Japanese alliteration of the English word. But I don't know nearly enough Japanese to actually know if Hakozume is the word for police box or not, and I wasn't paying enough attention during the anime to recall if that's what they said. Anyway, Police in a Pod is about a young female beat cop named Mai Kawaii who works out of a police box in the Machiyama district of her local city, which is never named in the anime itself that I recall. Kawaii works for the police department, not because she wanted to be a cop, but because she wanted a steady civil service job and the benefits that go along with it. In fact, when the series opens, Kawaii is prepared to quit the force, resignation letter in hand, due to the steady abuse she receives from citizens just for doing her job, which mainly consists of enforcing traffic violations. However, on that very day that she's prepared to tender her resignation, she gets saddled with a new senior partner, Seiko Fuji, a former detective who's been busted back down to beat cop. Through Fuji, Kawaii develops a new interest in her role as a cop, and even discovers a passion for her job through the various cases and misadventures she has with the no-nonsense former detective. Now, there were quite a few characters in this anime, at least 4 of whom featured pretty prominently in almost every episode. I think I'll be covering 5 of the more prominent ones for this review: the beat cop pairing, the main detective pair, and one more detective who was also fairly prominent in this first season. Mai Kawaii is a relatively fresh graduate from the police academy. As I stated in the breakdown earlier, she only wanted to be a civil servant to have a stable income, mostly under the influence of her father, who consistently suffered under the business practices of the corporate world. The police academy was the only civil service test that she was able to pass, however. Due to this rather tepid reasoning for joining, as well as a rather pure and straightforward attitude, she is easily discouraged by the often difficult work and the casual slings and barbs tossed her way from everyday citizens, suspects, and even children. However, under the tutelage of her senior, Seiko Fuji, and through the various cases she's involved in, over time she gains more confidence in her role and even learns to appreciate the work she does for her community in her job. Seiko Fuji is a former ace detective of the Criminal Affairs Division who graduated at the top of her class in the police academy. She is a tough, no-nonsense cop, though she's keenly observant and able to easily empathize and get on the good side of perps and civilians alike. Due to the personality and behavior she expresses to her colleagues, she's often treated as a guerrilla, especially by those on the detective squad. It's said that the reason she was busted down to beat cop was due to several complaints of bullying by a junior colleague. Takeshi Yamada is one of the first detectives and main supporting characters that we meet in the anime. He's the junior to Fuji and Minamoto, his partner, both of whom he harbors some small resentment to due to the way he feels they used him in their academy days. Though he has a strong sense of justice and genuinely wants to do a good job, he is also bullheaded and often loses sight of the bigger picture. In a sense, he's who Kawaii might have been if she'd had a stronger motivation to join the police force. Seiji Minamoto is another detective in the Criminal Affairs Division. He attended the same academy class as Fuji and is a senior and partner of Yamada. Though he got relatively low scores during the academy, his easygoing nature and natural rapport with people allows him to easily win over suspects and citizens alike, and he's often regarded as a genius interrogator. He is particularly beloved by the older housewife demographic of the population due to his charm. This charm doesn't seem to extend to Fuji, however, with whom he holds a friendly antagonism. This finally brings us around to Miwa Makitaka. She is also a junior detective of the Criminal Affairs Division, a classmate of Yamada, who essentially took Fuji's place on the squad after she was busted down. I think I included her in this review in part because she's a history buff, and I like that. Apparently she joined the police squad at least in part, due to the fact that she's a fanatical devotee of the Shinsengumi, which was sort of Japan's 19th century precursor to their current police force. There's a bit more to it than that, but this is neither the time nor the video to get into the Shinsengumi. Makitaka is a soft-spoken, bright, and relatively friendly individual whose steadfast attitude and work ethic makes her universally trusted by her colleagues. She's actually one of the few detectives that not even Fuji has a bad thing to say about. So I'll just state right out, I love this show. I loved this show so much that I'm even going to watch the live-action version of it. I mean, I had my doubts about whether or not I'd actually like this show when I first started it, but it grabbed my attention right from the start and kept hold of me right up to the final episode. It was bright and funny, and it approached a lot of rather tough topics, such as sexual assault, for instance, in a very thoughtful and sensitive way. While the show was a comedy, first and foremost, it never made light of the heavier topics. There was humor to be found within certain situations in and around those topics, such as the creepy doll they use for reenactments, but the topics themselves were always covered with the gravitas that one would expect. The show and the characters were all very well written and acted out, at least by the Japanese voice cast. I honestly don't even want to imagine how the English dubs butchered this material. The English version of this anime is probably so goddamn full of virtue signaling nonsense that it's probably damn near unwatchable. This is why I always say, watch the fan subs, man. I have attention issues too, but I still manage to read the subs and watch the anime itself. Those people work their butts off to keep their translations as close to direct as humanly possible, and refrain from any sort of dumbass localization shenanigans. They have my respect. Damn, that went way off topic pretty damn fast. Sorry. These so-called localizers just really piss me off is all. Fucking cretins. The season was fairly episodic, with each episode doing a mostly self-contained storyline, until the season finale, which sort of went over 2 episodes. The episodes themselves also tended to be split into 2 almost self-contained stories, with the second usually building upon elements that were in the previous story, but focusing on slightly different themes. It was rather interesting. I've only seen that particular setup in one other anime so far, in Komi Can't Communicate, which I adore. Don't fucking judge me. Honestly, the anime itself was very good. The artwork was wonderful. Not amazing, but very good. Nice detailed settings and character designs, great color work, very good line work, all that jazz. As I said, the characters themselves were great. The dialogue was stupendous and very funny, much of the time. The stories were entertaining and very well done. Again, as I said, part of the reason I went off about localizers getting a hold of this particular anime is that the anime is very cop-centric, obviously. I'm not going to go out there and say it's all gung-ho pro-cop back the blue type stuff. It wasn't like that at all. It did come at things from a more cop-centric perspective, sure, but it didn't go into the realm of propaganda or anything like that. At least I didn't get that feel from it. It did get into some of the stuff that cops, especially beat cops, deal with on a day-to-day, but it was also very sympathetic to the general public's perspective as well. All in all, it was very well balanced in my opinion. However, we all know that in the current era in the West, with sentiments towards cops being what they are, especially in light of the past couple weeks, I just know the localizers are going to have a field day with this one, which is why I said you should watch the fan subs. Our politics should never taint Japanese art. Also, again, this shit was funny and localizers would make it not funny, I'm sure. For real though, one of the funniest things to me, and so it stuck out in the week or so since I watched it, was the show constantly comparing the detective squads to the Yakuza. Like, that was a running joke through the series that you couldn't tell the difference on looks alone between a detective and a member of the Yakuza. For me, that in and of itself was worth watching this anime for. It's funnier when you watch it, trust me. So, on that note, I'll finish up this review. Give this one a shot. I don't think you'll be disappointed. If you want to tell me your thoughts and opinions on this particular anime, you can do so in that handy section down below. While you're down there, perhaps you'll spot some professional localizers. I hear they need money, and $20 is $20, right? So, if you like this review and you want more of them, you can get more by crushing those like and subscribe buttons, like a goblin. I'll see you all on Monday to shred some actual propaganda coming out of Western pop culture. See you then. Lates.